Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. I am your host, Chris Tutela, here to help you live the Iron Life. And today I have an episode lined up for you to help you deal with shoulder pain, because I'll tell you what, I've been getting a lot of feedback about the episodes that I put out about low back pain and knee pain. So today let's talk about another common issue, which is that of shoulder pain. Now, I don't have much time today. This is going to be a shorter episode, but I'm going to get you everything that you need. That I guarantee you, so we could start getting those shoulders healthy and get you out of shoulder pain. So first things first, look, if you're dealing with shoulder pain, just know that it's very common. Okay, most of shoulder pain is, and now listen, it just depends on what you have going on. You may have had an injury, you may have had some trauma. You may just have some shoulder pain and discomfort, but let's just say that it's a very common thing, and there's a lot of everyday activity that contributes to shoulder pain. Okay, so one is posture. And if you're sitting at your computer, if you're sitting at a desk all day and you have your shoulders kind of rounded forward, what happens is the pecs become tight and internally rotated. We lose scapular mobility. And now your shoulders are losing mobility, and the musculature of the pecs, the upper back, the traps. We have poor breathing mechanics. All of these things contribute to these tight, internally rotated shoulders. Now, the other thing is, if you're listening to this show, I'm sure that you train, and hopefully you've taken some of my advice and you've learned how to train properly since you've been listening to this show. But I would bet that some of you are still meatheads and your favorite exercise is the bench press, and you want to get into the gym and you want to start pressing right away, and you're training those mirror muscles more than you're training the musculature of the upper back. So when you're training in that manner, we're training the anterior muscles of the body more than the posterior. That's going to lead to a lot of overuse issues and also an overdeveloped anterior side of the body and underdeveloped posterior side. So those muscles of the upper back are weak, they're tight. Our posture, our breathing mechanics, all of these things are contributing to this poor posture and poor mechanics and tight shoulders. And now the muscles on the front side of the body are overtrained and overdeveloped. You could probably see, without being a fitness pro or an expert, that could lead to some issues in the shoulders. All right, so we have to talk about what to do to counteract these issues. So a very simple thing to start with is to learn how to breathe. And I know that sounds super simple, and you might be like, well, dude, I fucking know how to breathe. I'm sitting here listening to you yap. Well, yeah, that's true, but are you breathing properly? Okay, most people are chest breathers. So rather than breathing down into the belly button, you're breathing short breaths like this into the chest, and that contributes to the problem. So you have to learn how to breathe well and take deeper belly breaths and actually breathe down into the belly. Now, that's a whole nother topic. That's something that my girlfriend, Gabriella Borges, you could find her on Instagram. She could definitely hook you up with breathing techniques. That's what she does. She's a breathwork coach. But this is definitely a topic that she could go into, and I'll probably have her on the show soon to go into that further. But learning how to breathe is a good first step to work on your shoulder health and get you out of some shoulder pain. Now, in your training, one thing that you want to do is focus on adding more volume to your upper back training. Now, ideally, you want to pull about twice as much as you push. Like I said earlier, the muscles on the front side of the body are typically overdeveloped and the back is underdeveloped. So we have to counterbalance that. We need to start to build the upper back better. So with that said, we're going to pull twice as much as you push. Okay, so let's just keep it super simple. If you're doing 2 sets on a press, let's do 4 sets on a pull, right? Keep it super simple. Just keep an eye on the total volume that you're doing for your upper back. Okay, so you should be doing double the amount of pressing. Now, it's not just about the volume, though. It's still about the quality. So, another big bullet point for you is to make sure that if you're training your upper back, this is where most guys go wrong. They think they're training the upper back, but they're really just training the biceps because their technique is shit. They're going way too heavy, and they're not getting the scapular retraction in order to actually target that upper back. So, here's what I want you to do on your rows. I want you to focus first. If you put your arms out in front of you like you're going to do a row, keep your elbows straight. Now, all I want you to do is retract your scapula or take your shoulder blades and pull them back without bending your elbows. Keep your elbows straight, but pull your shoulder blades back like you want to grab onto a pencil that's being placed on your spine. So shoulders come back. I'm squeezing my shoulder blades together. Now I let my elbows follow through. And now I'm making sure that I'm placing the emphasis on my upper back, and I'm focusing on developing that scapular mobility that most people don't have. So you're checking off two boxes there. You're enhancing the mobility of your scapula, and we're truly now developing the muscles of the upper back, getting the upper back stronger and bigger simultaneously. So you have to make sure that you're increasing the volume of your upper back training and that you're also retracting and performing your upper back work properly. Now, with that, simple ways to add more volume, because it doesn't have to just be set for set like I mentioned before, but smaller exercises like band pull-aparts, work them into your warm-up, right? You could do YWTLs, work those into your warm-up, work those into your training. You could do Blackburns, rear delt flies, little small exercises that you could use, and just like a daily shoulder routine. You could add those into your warm-up, whatever. Do them post-workout. Do them, as just part of your morning routine or whatever. But just work that in daily. That's not going to lead to overtraining or anything like that. That's only going to help you with your overall shoulder health. So just keep that in mind. Now, when I say pull more than you push, I'm talking about horizontal pulling, right? So I'm talking about your rows, your face pulls, things like that that are targeting the upper back. Now, lat pull downs and exercises that primarily target the lats, these exercises are important, but the lats are internal rotators. So if you overdevelop your lats, because look, a lot of people like to do pull downs, they like to do chin ups and shit like that. But if you're just doing all that volume for the lats, keeping in mind that the lats are internal rotators of the shoulders, that could also contribute to the problem. So you also want to make sure that you're doing more horizontal pulling than you are vertical pulling, which would be your chin-ups and your pull-downs. So you don't want to overdevelop the lats, okay? So keep that in mind, all right? If the lats are overdeveloped, the pecs are tight and overdeveloped, the upper back is weak, that's going to lead to shoulder pain or potential injury in the future. So I want to keep you healthy. I want to get you out of shoulder pain, so make sure that you're not overdeveloping the lats, all right? Pay attention here, guys. So moving on to to stay on the topic of the lats, since they're internal rotators, these are big, thick, dense muscles. You have to make sure that you're stretching the lats and doing some SMR on the lats as well. Before any press day, and any training day really that you're doing upper body, but especially on a press day, I like to foam roll the lats. I like to do a lat stretch where if I'm facing a squat rack, I kind of sit, and I'm standing, I sit my hips back. I'll take my right arm out and I'll grab onto the rack, and then I kind of do like a hip hinge and get my hips back, and then I rotate my pelvis away from the arm that's extended, and I kind of turn into my armpit. I know it's not that easy, but if you just search like a basic lat stretch, but doing some lat stretching, doing some SMR, some foam rolling on the lats, that's going to really help you as well. Now, with stretching and foam rolling the lats, we have to do the same thing for the pecs, because if the pecs are tight, they're turned off and internally rotated, then we got to stretch those bad boys, right? So, just doing a basic pec stretch on that same squat rack or on a ring or something like that, you could Google search pec stretches, but opening up those pecs is going to really help you with your shoulder pain as well. Okay, so please just but keep that in mind, because I think a lot of people overlook that when they have shoulder pain. They're just like, oh, my shoulder hurts, and there's nothing really I can do. No, there is something you can do, hopefully, depending on the severity of your issue, but these are definitely staples that I would have built into your routine. Now, we talked about mobilizing the scapula, right? And part of that is going to come with your upper back work that you're doing. But there's other things that you can be doing to work on scapular mobility, right? So, number one is to make sure that when you're doing horizontal pressing, right, like dumbbell presses, floor presses, bench presses, things like that, keep in mind that you are not training, you're not benefiting from any scapular mobility by doing those exercises, because the scaps are pinned down onto the bench or onto the floor. So you have to keep push-ups as a staple in your program as well, because that's a horizontal push exercise that will actually mobilize the scaps. So that could be part of your strength training program. Okay, now with that, part of your warm-ups, part of your morning routine, we could add in scap push-ups, where you get into a push-up position, you keep your elbows completely locked and straight, and all you're going to do is, like you're doing a push-up, but your elbows never bend. You're just going to retract the scaps, like you're grabbing onto that pencil again, and then protract the scaps and let them come forward. So retract, protract, that's one. Retract, protract, that's two. So now we're actually just training for scapular retraction in this push-up position. That's going to help you with your scapular mobility there, okay? Now, the same thing could be said for scap chin-ups. I hang from a chin-up bar, preferably with like angles 90, or with like on rings, or on a neutral bar, something like that, or maybe just a regular pronated position on a bar. You get into a dead hang position. Now this time, when you're getting to that dead hang, your scaps are elevated, right? They're coming up towards your ears. And all you're going to do, again, you're going to keep your elbows straight, but you're going to depress the scaps or pull them down towards your hips to activate the lats, and then you elevate, get back to that dead hang again. Then you depress again, then you elevate again. So you're kind of just hanging from the bar. If my hands are up, I'm pulling my scaps down, I'm letting them come up. I'm pulling them down, I'm letting them come up. So we're mobilizing the scaps there as well. Now, the glenohumeral joint, right? That's the actual ball and socket joint of the shoulder. You could do things like shoulder dislocations with a band, where I'm coming up and around. Like, use those in your warm-up as well to mobilize the glenohumeral joint, as long as you have the shoulder mobility to do that. So don't force yourself if you start to feel pain there. But if you can, grab onto a band, get nice and wide, come up and overhead, back around to your butt, and mobilize that glenohumeral joint. In addition to that, a big contributor to shoulder pain is poor thoracic mobility of the thoracic spine. So that's that mid portion of your spine below your neck, okay, and in between your shoulder blades, that area. Okay, because of our poor posture, because we're sitting at our desks and at computers all day, we really lose our mobility of the thoracic spine. So, things that you can do to improve thoracic mobility, a prayer stretch is a great stretch that you can do to put yourself to mobilize, to get more mobility in that thoracic region. You could also do foam rolling. That thoracic region is very helpful. And what I like to do is, once after I foam roll that thoracic region, then I kind of just drop my hips to the ground and I reach overhead. So my hips are down and I'm reaching over that foam roller, kind of leaning back and working on some mobility there. But making these things a staple, guys, is what's really going to move the needle. It's not a one-time thing. You will not fix this problem of shoulder pain by just doing a quick few drills. It's going to take time, just like anything else. But take these things that we're covering here today and make sure you work them into your warm-up. Make sure you work them into your daily hygiene, just like you're brushing your teeth. You do these shoulder drills. It could be 5 minutes in the morning or the evening, whatever. But just doing it the days at the gym is not going to be enough if you have poor mobility and you have shoulder pain. So like I said, guys, I got a short episode for you today, but hopefully you got a lot out of it. I love and appreciate every single one of you. If you have questions, feel free to hit me up on Instagram at Chris_Tutela, Tutela. Always happy to help. And I appreciate any 5-star reviews, written reviews, all that good stuff. It means the world, helps us grow the show. So thank you in advance. And that's all I got for you today. Sorry I couldn't dive into this a little bit deeper, just kind of running behind today. But I hope you guys got a lot out of this regardless. And again, if you have questions, feel free to hit me up. And that's all I got. I'll catch you next week on another episode of the Iron Life Podcast.